We're the latest addition to the New York skyline. U68 Stereo Music Television. Shine on, New York.
Greetings, y'all. Welcome to another video. Today, I'm going to do something new and something different and unique and amazing. Well, not really. But I'm going to do a couple of these videos that I'm referring to influences, things from mainly my youth that kind of had a big influence on me and the music I listened to and the bands that I liked. First and foremost, the major influence on me growing up, getting into music was my brother. I had an older brother, the classic story. You had an older sibling who started listening to music, and then their tastes sort of become your taste. My brother, I got into The Who really early when I first started listening to music, and that directly came from him. There's that classic influence. These are a little bit different. These are more things that I kind of discovered on my own. And the first one here that I'm talking about is back in the mid 80s. I loved the music videos. I absorbed them, I couldn't get enough of them. And we didn't have cable. We didn't have MTV. So mainly where I was getting this from was like the network shows like Friday Night Videos and ABC Rocks. And then there were syndicated shows, like my favorite was called Top 40 Videos that was on. And that's where I'm getting all my music videos from. And back then, there were a lot of those shows. So you could, even without MTV, you could get a steady diet of music videos. And I would tape them. We got a VCR, I think in like 84 or something like that. So I had like a VHS tape that I would like tape all these music videos as well, so I could watch them, when the shows weren't on. And then some point in 1985, I don't remember exactly how, but I discovered a music video channel called U68. And they aired music videos initially like noon till midnight. Nothing but music videos. They didn't have VJs, although I think later they had a heavy metal show that was hosted by this crazy dude named Thor. It was just like mind-blowing to have, again, we had no MTV, and now we had our own music video channel called U68 that we could watch every day. Not 24 hours, but a good portion of the day. And I couldn't believe it. I was like in heaven. There were UHF channels, which went above and beyond like channel 13. And those you could kind of get in on your regular TV without cable, especially if you had like a decent antenna. And that's where U68 resided. 68, it was channel 68. And I remember getting U68 when I found it, and the picture was kind of snowy. For some reason, it crossed my mind. I decided to take a radio antenna that you would have on the back of your stereo to get like a better FM radio signal. And I took that, I connected it to my television set, ran it out my bedroom window, and then up the side of the house, and I connected the antenna to the gutter that went around the whole house, a metal gutter. And suddenly I had crystal clear picture. I guess it essentially, attaching it to that gutter, the metal, the gutter around the house essentially became, the antenna. The whole house gutter was my antenna. So I got the picture in crystal clear. And it was so funny because I remember my next door neighbor, Darren, we went over to his house, and when I told him what I did and it worked, I remember us he had like a 2-story house, and I remember us trying to hook that up on his TV in his bedroom, and we were like hanging out the window of like the 2-story house, like trying to connect it to the gutter and everything. For some reason, I don't think it worked out well, but his house was surrounded more by like trees and the woods and stuff. So that might've been the reason. But anyway, so I hook up my antenna, getting U68 crystal clear. I'm watching this thing from morning to night. all day I would watch this. I remember specifically there was one day, it might have been like a snow day, or we just were off school that day, and I just woke up and I decided I was going to watch U68 from the minute they signed on till the minute they signed off. And I even remember I wrote down, I wish I still had this, but I wrote down like every music video they played. You know, I would write down just to have this massive list, a few pages long, of like every music video that they played. Just sat in my room like a lazy bastard and watched music videos all day. But I mean, that's how much I love these things, you know. I just couldn't get enough of them. And the thing about U68, what made it unique and what made it had this influence on me is that at the time MTV had these exclusives locked up. So U68, and there were other ones in the country that were similar to U68, these like local music video channels. My friend Eric Green made a great documentary that you should all check out about the one in Boston called V66. But the thing about this was MTV had these exclusives with the record labels. So U68 couldn't play, say, this is 1985, couldn't play like the latest Prince video or Madonna video or Bruce Springsteen video, because MTV had these locked up as exclusives, and they had this window where they weren't, the shows could air these videos because they were not a network. It was just a show that was on once a week or whatever. But a network that was like their main thing was playing music videos. The MTV just, you know, had cornered the market, and those channels weren't allowed to play these MTV exclusive videos. So one way to get around this, U68 started airing the syndicated show, like I mentioned, Top 40 Videos. So Top 40 Videos was allowed to play the new Madonna video or whatever. So U68 kind of got around it that way. But at the same time, you know, they decided they would air videos by bands that maybe you weren't necessarily familiar with. So they were like, we can't play the new Madonna video, we can't play the new Prince video, so what can we play? And they just aired all these videos by bands that I'd never heard of. They exposed, you know, me to so many bands that I'd never heard of, maybe would have never heard of, and just opened up my ears, so to say, to some great music, you know. And up until that point, I think my main diet of music was top 40 stuff, what was really popular, what I was seeing on the music video shows. And, you know, at the time we didn't call it that, but what essentially was classic rock, The Who, you know, Van Halen, Tom Petty, whatever. So now I'm watching U68 and seeing all these bands that I would have never heard of. And some of them were, I'll show you, this band. I'm sure, obviously, I would have heard of this band, but I remember first seeing REM on U68. I think the video was Can't Get There From Here. I remember that's the first time I ever remember hearing REM. Aztec Camera, I remember them playing the video for Oblivious a whole bunch. I love that song. Black Flag, I remember them playing TV Party back then and exposed me to Black Flag. Another one, kind of new wave band, Kid Creole and the Coconuts. They would play their video for Endicott constantly. And let's see, Dire Straits was huge in 1985. Money for Nothing was exploding. U68 couldn't play Money for Nothing, the video, but they started playing all the old Dire Straits videos. So stuff like Skate Away, Romeo and Juliet, they're playing all this because people are getting into Dire Straits right now because of Money for Nothing, but they probably don't know these other songs by Dire Straits, and they played them and they were all great. I really, at that time, was not familiar with Dire Straits at all before that, and one of the videos they played was Twisting by the Pool, which I loved that song, and they'd play that video all the time, and just really kind of made me a fan. Another one that they played a bunch that I really loved was the song Switch On, Switch Off by this new wave act from the UK, B Movie. Loved that song. And then two that really I remember being big fans of that I discovered through U68. One was Shriekback. and they would play the video for Nemesis. There was something creepy and weird about that. I remember having a nightmare about the video. The main singer, I think his name is Barry Andrews. I remember him being in my dream. It was like he was like haunting me, you know. But I loved Shriek. It was like one of those things where, like, when I first heard it, it was like nothing I'd ever heard before, and where you're almost like, what is this? And then the more you keep seeing the video and hearing that song, you suddenly start becoming like this is a good song. Like, I dig this, man, you know? Like, you almost didn't want to admit it, you know? But that was a fan. And another one, major one for me, I remember seeing the video for Party at Ground Zero by Fishbone. Never heard of them, never seen anything like them. U68 would play Party at Ground Zero all the time, and I just loved the video's great. I loved this song. It just instantly made me a fan, and a fan for life. I still love Fishbone. I just saw them live a couple of months ago. Just great. And then they would do a lot of these promos between videos and stuff, and introduced me to people like George Clinton would do one, and I don't think at that time I ever knew who George Clinton was, and I saw him in video and I was just like, who is this crazy dude, you know? And then I think I saw him pop up in the Sun City video, and I was like, all right, there's that dude from the U68 promos. I mean, I knew he was a musician, I just wasn't familiar with him. Another dude, Emo Phillips, would do these crazy promos for a U68, and I just kind of became a fan of his. So it was just, you know, just eye-opening, just seeing these acts that I wasn't exposed to before, because they weren't being played on the radio stations I was listening to, and these videos weren't being played on the shows that I was watching, the network shows and stuff like that. And the other thing about U68 that I loved is they didn't have VJs, but they did have news, like, I don't know, every hour or something like that. Then they had their regular newscaster named Bill Roller, but they paired him with the infamous Uncle Floyd and his little puppet Oogie. And that was the news team. And if you're not familiar with Uncle Floyd, he's kind of a, you know, sort of a legendary character, kind of had this crazy show in like the 70s and stuff. And in the New York area, these famous musicians would catch his show and become fans. Like David Bowie has mentioned Uncle Floyd and Oogie in a couple of his songs, you know, and John Lennon was a fan. He had the Ramones on. So, you know, I knew kind of him, but I don't think I'd ever really seen his show. So this was like my first major exposure to Uncle Floyd, and I just loved it. I just thought he was hysterical, and his little puppet Oogie I just loved. And so I'm watching U68, you know, really into it. I'm even like, I have old like desk calendars that I had in my room back at the time, where I would like write down U68 is having like some exclusive show, or U68 is going to be premiering this on that day, and I would write it on my calendar. I was just like obsessed with this channel, and you could write away and they would send you like bumper sticker or something like that, and I did that. I really didn't know anything about fanzines or anything like that, but for some reason I thought to reach out to U68 and ask them. I wanted to start a U68 newsletter, and I thought this would be kind of fun. At the time, I think I was making my own little like top 40, so it might have kind of been feeding off of that. And I reached out to U68 and I said, hey, I'd love to do the newsletter. And woman there, Carol Silver, wrote back to me and was very nice, very helpful, and was like, you know, whatever you want to do, however I can help you, sounds like a great idea. And I wasn't allowed to call it the official U68. That was their only thing. She's like, you can't call it the official U68 newsletter. But, you know, she sent me a ton of press clippings. She sent me a ton of bumper stickers. She sent me a t-shirt, all kinds of stuff. I actually still somehow have it. Like, this is the folder that she sent to me that originally had, like, you know, it was like a press kit. It had like all kinds of press clippings and stuff. She sent me this letter. She spelled my name wrong, but you know, this is basically the letter saying, however I can help you, I will. And she would. Every week she would send me a package that would have like playlists in it or any kind of news clippings, but it would have, you know, here's all the videos that they're adding. And then I did some newsletters. I did a couple issues. I had my friend Kurt kind of helping me with it, but he wasn't doing that much. But This is a copy of, I guess, my first issue, November 1985, the unofficial U68 newsletter. This I still says official, but I think when I sent this to her is when she said, oh, you got to take official off. But I basically would just like list, here's all the videos that were added. Here's a little top 10 list that I think I came up with myself. I did like a little review of a music video that had been on. This one is for John Fogerty's Vance Can't Dance. The grammar is horrible, as you can imagine. You know, and I would list some little news stories, and I would put like their playlist, like what their popular videos they were playing at the time. This is November 1985, videos that they were airing: Kid Creole, Endicott, like I mentioned, UB40, I Got You Babe, King, which I remember them playing a lot of, Kate Bush, Running Up the Hill, Prefab Sprat was a big one that I remember them pushing. They played Dire Straits' Walk of Life, but they had a early version of that video where it was a guy like busking in like the tube station in England. Later, when that song was released as the follow-up single to Money for Nothing, they made this like sports bloopers video that was really big. The original video that U68 played was 100 times better. Then I listed like the shows that they had on. Like I mentioned, they played Top 40 videos. The Metal Power Hour was on from 11 to midnight. Collection of love songs that Melba Moore hosted. The Record Guide, I think, was like another syndicated music video show. And then they had Upon This Rock on Sunday that was, I think, kind of like religious videos that they would play. And, you know, I would just list different events that were going on the channel, like the dude Zachary used to be like a local like horror movie host. They did a lot of stuff with him around the holidays and stuff like that. And here's some stuff from the second issue. And I would basically try to promote this in school and stuff. Nobody really ever cared. I think I only did like 3 issues, and then my interest kind of waned, and that was that. But yeah, it was fun. It's one of those things I wish I had pursued a bit more and tried to do. I think, you know, in the back of my head, I had these like, you know, visions of maybe doing this newsletter would maybe lead to like me and my friend Kurt getting to like host a video show on the channel for some reason. I don't know. It just was one of those things. I do remember that. The other thing is when Carol, when I got involved and reached out to her and she was helping me out, she invited us to come to the studio and take a little tour of the place. The studio was in Newark, New Jersey, and we went up there one day and she met us and brought us around and showed us, you know, the tour of the studio where they did the news and everything, and the operation room and all that stuff. And she loaded us up with some more promotional stuff. They were doing a big like promo with Sting for his album Dream of the Blue Turtles. I remember them giving us posters and stuff for that. But it was really cool. So U68, it came on the air in 85. It only lasted till 1986, because in 1986, the channel was sold to the Home Shopping Network. And really, I don't remember reading about this. I literally think I got up one morning, turned on to watch some music videos, and it wasn't on. It was Home Shopping, and it was like, what the hell is this? And I remember it took a couple of days to kind of figure out what had happened. And Home Shopping had bought it up, the station, and that was the end of U68. And I think maybe like a year later, we got MTV and cable. So then that kind of filled that gap. But you know, it was just an amazing thing to have access to. And like I said, it influenced me. It made me a Fishbone fan for life. It introduced me to Parliament and George Clinton or Kid Creole or Shriekback. And just like to this day, I still, you know, have fond memories of it and still think about it. And this dude who used to work there at that channel, his name's Ed Kaz, and he has posted a ton of old videos from the channel, like promos and things like that, with, you know, famous people that would stop in, like AC/DC or Roger Daltrey. And he's posted it all up on a YouTube page. I'll put a link down below so you can go check it out and see some of the stuff. If you're familiar with the channel and weren't aware of this, it'll bring back some great memories. And there's also a pretty cool Facebook group of people who grew up at U68. I'll put a link to that in the comments below if you want to check it out. There's pictures and articles and stuff like that there. But yeah, I mean, I love this channel. If any of you are familiar with U68 or you're aware of it, I would love to hear your memories of it. But thanks for tuning in, and see you the next time.